some learning objectives today. We're going to be talking about the Mediterranean diet, and we'll also be talking about heart health. It is American Heart Month, and the Mediterranean diet is a great way to support heart health. So I'll be touching on that. And our culinary learning objectives are that we're going to talk about flavors found in Middle Eastern and North African cooking and different ways to make delicious plant-based foods. Most of our classes are vegetarian or vegan meals. Today, this is an entirely vegan meal. However, for those of you that may hear the word vegan and think that it's lacking, you do not feel that way at all with this meal. It's incredibly flavorful, incredibly satisfying. So I'm going to pass it over to Chef Rahul, and he can kick us off with some safety information and our plan of work for the class.
Hi, welcome everyone. So who are new, welcome. And this is what we do. We have a layout for the class, and I just want to go over how we're going to progress through the whole session. So what we do is we talk about safety first, and safety is very, very important because we will be cooking with hot equipment, and we will be dealing with food, of course, and of course, some sharp objects. So we have to be well protected, having a lot of towel, gloves, and not to have any unwanted stuff that we don't need around where we are cooking, and leave the space free. That makes everything works good. So does also a plan of work. We always need a plan of work because we are, as Eliza explained, that we are cooking multiple dishes, and we will go over that as well. But what we need to do is we have to see that we have a goal, a time when we want to get ready with our food. And what we do is, with our culinary knowledge and how we cook and the equipment with us, we try to get the best of the best out of that particular food item, ingredient, or dish or recipe. So what we do is we start with the item that takes the longest amount of time to cook in the whole recipe, and that's how we segregate it. So that is the one that we start first, and then we start it and then we put it aside. So it is cooking while we are preparing the other items, and then such that at the finishing line, all the ingredients are ready to plate up, and also it is not affecting the quality. Example, like if you have to saute spinach, you cannot saute the spinach way ahead of time and let it cool down and then reheat it again. That kind of does not serve the purpose of doing it well. So that's why the plan of work is very, very important, that we think about it like, okay, this is the dish that we want to make. We think about it, we work it backwards, and then after that, that's where we start. So today, our dish is lentils, spicy lentil, and then tabbouleh and roasted cauliflower, and then walnut chermoula. And chermoula is a cold sauce, and then of course with pomegranate, olive oil, and all that. So it's an entire meal which does not lack anything else than any of the non-vegetarian meal. So it has got all the ingredients in there, very flavorful, and it is coming right through to the Mediterranean. So the spices and the herbs, and then the local products that are available, like lentils and the burger wheat, which is a massive part of the diet over there, in the very close to Mediterranean, and then making tabbouleh out of that. So we will talk more about it as we progress dish by dish. So our first item will be, we will be start making the lentil. So I know lentil could be cooked many different ways, but now what we have brown lentil, which is inside its skin. And what we have to cook it slow, because the fast cooking may burst the grain and then it might turn into a mush. So we do not want that either. But at the same time, we want the grain of the lentil to cook completely, and it is tasty as well. It is not just bland. So how we develop that taste? So we're using very simple ingredients. This is not we're not using 20 different ingredients to flavor it. Okay, very, very important. It's simple cooking. What do we start with is we're going to saute the mirepoix, a vegetable that is carrot, onion, celery. We're going to saute that. Then after that, we're going to put the lentil in there. Then we're going to season it with 2 kinds of spices. And as we get to that, and so we begin right now. Okay. So we heat up our pan, and we use canola oil. I prefer to use canola oil, and many places in Caribbean Mediterranean, we use grapeseed oil, and because the thing being that it is more neutral to its flavor, and also it is a higher flash point. So we use olive oil, and you say why we are not using olive oil in Mediterranean. We do use olive oil, and we are going to use olive oil, but we're going to use the olive oil in the right way for its cold properties, and we're going to use as a finishing oil. Okay, so So if this is my pan is heated up, I'm gonna start with putting a little bit of canola oil, and you see my pan is really hot. And now I'm gonna have my carrot, onion, and celery, and then we'll talk about what we're trying to do here. So we're trying to caramelize the onions, the carrot, and the celery for the reason that, as we know, that all the vegetables, they have some kind of their own internal sugar, which are not necessarily have to be sweet like a mango or anything else, but they are still sweet. As you know, carrot, you can feel the sweetness. So here, so this is the mirepoix. This is the base of this cooking. And what we do is we caramelize it. So caramelizing helps to caramelize the outer surface that has been cut with a knife, where it is exposed, the natural juices are exposed. And this caramelization brings a very nice taste to the lentils. So this is gonna caramelize, and then you're gonna deglaze it, and that deglazing juice becomes the one of the ingredients, one of the liquids that only is used to bloom the lentils, because our lentils are dry. So we have not soaked the lentils. You may choose to soak the lentil, but I wanted to start with off the shelf, unprocessed. Like the only thing we process is the carrot, onion, and celery to save time and to be on this great dish. This dish is with lentil and tabbouleh, and then roasted cauliflower, pomegranate seeds, and chermoula, finished off with olive oil. Very interesting. Okay.
And your pan is on high heat right now, is that right?
Yes, my pan is on high heat. So this is, I'm trying to caramelize it. So that's why I keep moving it such that like the heat is spread out evenly, and it's not only heating up at one spot, such that there is an even caramelization and also even cooking. And while it is cooking, also some of the sugars will get stuck onto the pan, but our pan is non-stick. So when we add water to that, it deglazes, it washes itself. So it's all good, and then everything is brought back into that liquid. That's a very major part of cooking lentil or cooking anything really well. Then instead of just putting everything and boiling it together, that will also be cooking, but we're trying to extract more flavor out of it.
Exactly. And when you boil vegetables, which some people tend to do that, when you boil anything and then you discard the water, you're actually leaching some of the nutrients out of the food into the water and then throwing it away. So what we're doing instead is we cook it, like Rahul said, we brown these vegetables in this pan, and we add only enough water with the lentils and the vegetables so that all of it becomes absorbed, or it evaporates and the flavor doesn't escape this pan. All of the flavor stays here.
So we have measured this recipe, and that's why we have provided you that we are using 1 cup of dry lentil to 3 cups of liquid to that water. And this could be anything you can substitute with the broth or any choice of your liquid that you may want your lentils to bloom with. Because what happens when lentils bloom, it needs to have a flavored liquid, such that when it's swelling, it absorbs that flavor, and when you eat the lentil, it's not bland inside. Okay, that's a very important part of cooking your lentil properly. And also not overcooking it, because lentil, see, the one I'm using is brown lentil, so it has got its outer covering. But if you have a yellow lentil or a pink lentil or a crimson lentil, they overcook very fast because they are just exposed to the heat. They cook, and in a flip, they will get overcooked and mush. Okay. So now you will see we are almost getting closer. As you can see, like it's start smoking, and I will pick up 2 pieces, like they have nice caramel color on that. Show you that. So let's see. Look here, see.
Put it in the middle of the overhead camera, then it'll come into focus.
This is a kind of caramelizing on that onion, the piece of onion. This is what we're looking for, and we'll just continue another minute because we are almost there, but we want to do it right. And you will see the color of the liquid and deglaze the pan. So for stirring, so what happens is, like in the beginning, the vegetables start absorbing the heat, and the caramelization doesn't start. But once the vegetable get hot, the juice starts squeezing out because the vegetable contract, the small pieces contract, the juices ooze out, and the temperature is right, and then the caramelization begins. It is exactly like how you must have tasted caramelized onion on any of your favorite dishes. So you can hear that, if you can hear the camera on the camera, that it is, you can hear a hissing noise. It is getting charred real well, real good. So this is pretty much where we want it to be, that it is like caramelized in spots, and bring it where we are. And now I'm going to add the lentils to that. And as I said, we want to keep it simple. These are the store-bought lentils. You just wash them or nothing else, and you just dump them inside. So it's fried lentils, okay? The lentils are in. Then we're going to add salt, pepper, seasoning, and we stir it a little bit.
So that was 1 cup of lentils and 1 cup of each vegetable. So right now there are more vegetables by volume in this dish, or I should say, I guess lentils are classified as a legume. So yeah, we have more vegetables in here than lentils right now, but the veggies end up cooking down so much.
So now we're going to talk a little bit about the spice that we're going to introduce to this dish. So okay, so far it looks all right. It's cooking well, but how it's going to distinguish itself from itself is like we're using coriander to flavor this, and we're using spice. Allspice is a very common spice used in Mediterranean, and also that's why we wanted to feature this, because how the spice trade started and how everything, that's how when the spice were bought from Asia to Europe, and they used to pass through Mediterranean, and that's how the influence came through the traders and all that. That's that they were exposed, and so was the Northern Africa. They were exposed to all these spices. So now I have my 3 cups of water. I put in the jar here.
So that was a 1/4 teaspoon of allspice and a 1/2 teaspoon of coriander.
Teaspoon of black pepper and 1 teaspoon of salt.
Of salt, yep.
Right. So this is all ready, and now you will see it's like we just added water, but look at our dish right here. It already looks, the color is dark. It looks like a broth already. This is from the deglazing and caramelizing, so it's already has got like a color of a broth. So if it is not,
Yep. And yes, the burner is still on high right now.
Because I added room temperature water in there.
Exactly. And you're going to bring this up to a boil, and then you will turn it down to a simmer and put a lid on it.
So bringing it to boil is very, very important. And one more thing that I want to touch base. So when we bring something to boil, remember the temperature is very high. It's hot. Yes, but it sanitizes the whole thing. Okay, so it's like we are not cooking any animal protein today, but if otherwise we were cooking animal protein with it, so that would have been a whole different discussion for cross-contamination and the food of the animal-based protein to be cooked at proper temperature for the consumption. Okay, so here we are. This is going to come to a boil, and then I'm going to move this to the stove. As we said in the plan of work, we're going to start with the item that takes the longest to cook, and we don't want to force cook anything. We just want to give it its own time to cook. No very difficult procedures, just a simple on top of stove top cooking. Will it come to a boil, and then I'll move this to my other stove such that I can start the next process on this camera, which is the second lengthiest thing that will take time to cook. Okay, so we'll give it a stir here just to see that all the vegetables are in.
So while this is coming to a boil, I can talk a bit about the Mediterranean diet. So I think some of you were on our call or on our in our class last month, but we do have, I'm going to share share my screen very quickly just to show what the Mediterranean diet pyramid looks like. So do a slideshow. So this is just to visualize what is the Mediterranean diet. So you'll see at the bottom, one very important thing is with the Mediterranean lifestyle, it's especially important to enjoy meals with others Eating is like a social activity, and you take your time when you eat your meals, rather than us sitting, I say us, I should say a lot of Americans, tend to sit at their desks and eat their lunch quickly while they have time. But taking your time to eat your meals with people that you enjoy socializing with, or even just eating by yourself and taking your time, it makes you enjoy the food so much more. So that is a very important part of this whole lifestyle. Another, you'll see on this pyramid, the largest section here is just full of plants, every kind of plant you can think of: fruits, vegetables, grains, mostly whole grains. We've got olive oil in there as well, beans or legumes, nuts and seeds, herbs and spices, everything, all kinds of plants you can think of. So plants are a huge part of the Mediterranean diet. And seafood is also a pretty significant part. This is where most animal protein comes from. And when we're talking about heart health, fatty fish is an excellent, excellent source of unsaturated fats. If you replace saturated fats in your diet with unsaturated fats, this has endless health benefits. So having seafood a few times a week, 2 to 3 times a week, that's typically what is observed in the Mediterranean diet. And then we've got poultry and dairy and eggs. This is like, a little bit, but not as much as seafood. And then meat and sweets, so like red meat and sweets, are up at the top of this pyramid, the smallest amount. So not to say that you should never have them, because we should never restrict things from ourselves that we love, but just keeping it in a smaller portion. So I'm going to stop sharing now that you have this pyramid in mind, and it looks like the lentils are boiling now.
So as we see the roll boil here, we just stir it a little bit, and then I'm going to bring it down to a lower heat such that it is slowly cooking. And as we said, we do not want to force cook it. Okay.
So what heat is it on? Like low heat?
Yeah, it's on medium right now.
Medium. Okay.
Yeah, because I'm using an induction top cooker. So there is electric, and then like it's very sensitive. So you see, this is how I want it to cook. It's slow. So I'm going to move this aside, and we are going to the next part of this dish. As we said, remember, we have lentils, we have the tabbouleh, and then we have the cauliflower and chermoula, and then the pomegranate. So this is one part of it, and this is going away. Now we're going to work on making tabbouleh. So for making the tabbouleh, we will have burgle wheat, half a cup, and this is what we're going to cook. Okay. Let me come back to you.
So while he puts that on the stove on the side, you can put it on your back burner and keep it on simmer. And we're going to get another smaller pot and bring 1 cup of water to boil. And that's going to be for the bulgur wheat. Is there an alternative to bulgur wheat? Yeah, I would say, so typically with tabbouleh, bulgur wheat is the grain that's used, but you don't have to use that. Yeah, if you couldn't find any, that's okay. I would say any kind of grain. I mean, the thing about bulgur wheat is that it's in small pieces. So something like frike is similar, but couscous may be more accessible. Although couscous is not quite a whole grain, but it's the same kind of shape, like little pieces as bulgur wheat. So it may look more like tabbouleh.
So here is another trick on cooking the tabbouleh or any of the grains or thing that I like to toast them. Okay, so toasting brings out like a toasted taste to it. It is not just again water and just the grain or whatever it is. So since we have the heat and we know how to do it, so we will do it right now. So we just throw this heat and we're going to toast it. Okay, it takes another minute for that.
So yeah, when you toast like this, it develops they can sometimes develop like a nutty type flavor. It just sort of helps to bring out like another layer of flavor for bulgur wheat or quinoa. If depending on the grain, if you were to toast it for too long, it might start popping. For example, wild rice. Wild rice is technically like botanically it's a seed, but we always classify it with grains. But if you were to put it in a pot, in a pan, like Rahul is doing now over high heat and tossing it around, it would start popping into puffed rice, like Rice Krispies or something like that.
Yeah, so as if right now, like when I'm doing this, I can smell it. It's smelling not so much there yet, but it's tasting like a popcorn. Okay, and now we are eating it, and it's like very fragrant right now. And see, so some few small tricks makes the food to helps us to take the flavor out of the food more.
Exactly.
And it's again, it is very simple process. We're just toasting it. You see that some of the grains start moving here.
Yeah, they're like bouncing around a little bit.
Bouncing around. So what happens also, now what's happening, now we're toasting it. So the grain, each individual piece of the broken burgle is conducting heat. So it is going to have its own heat that is conducted from the pan, and which in the other side is going to help itself to cook faster. Okay? Is toasted enough? We'll see.
So yeah, it looks like the color got a little bit darker, but what you're really going to notice if you're doing this at home is the smell. You'll smell that it tastes like it's toasted, or it smells like it's toasted.
Yeah, so now we're going to add water to that. Here we go.
So that was
Cup of water.
1 cup of water with half a cup of sugar.
So twice. So for most of the grain, it is like 1, 2, and 3 ratio. So like 1 part of the grain, 2 part of the liquid gives you 3 parts of finished product. Then, so since
yeah, we're bringing this up to a boil. So similar process as the lentils, except the bulgur wheat is going to cook way faster. But the reason we're cooking the bulgur now, when it's cooks really quickly, is because we want it to cool down a bit, because the tabbouleh salad is a cold salad. So ideally, this would be maybe made, the bulgur might be made the day before, or even just like a few hours before, and you let it fully cool down before you mix it in with the other ingredients in the tabbouleh salad. But, you know, we're just going to let it cool for about 20 minutes or so, and it'll be just as delicious.
So we're gonna let it come to a brisk boil. And it's boiling. So tabbouleh, when we're gonna make it, so bulgur wheat makes the tabbouleh, and also the frika is used to make the tabbouleh, because frika is like the grain of wheat is picked when it is green, still very not ripe yet. Then when it's picked up, and this both makes the best tabbouleh. And then in tabbouleh, the important part is the parsley. So parsley has to be at least at the minimum point. The parsley has to be 40% of it, and then more other vegetable like tomatoes, cucumbers, scallions, and henceforth many other things could be added to that. And it is flavored with minimum lemon juice and olive oil, salt, and pepper. That's that easy it is. Okay. So you see, now it is coming very close to be getting cooked. I'm going to put it aside and cover it such that it continues carrying over and the grain is cooked. Okay. Aside.
So we're doing with the bulgur a little bit of a different process than we are with the lentils. The lentils are still on the burner on medium or low simmer with a lid on, and the bulgur we just took off of the heat and we're putting a lid on it.
Okay.
It doesn't actually need any more cooking because it's going to be cooking in the hot liquid. And
so now we're gonna process the cauliflower, because the cauliflower has to go in the oven. So now we see we are progressing slowly because the lentils are working, the bulgur started already, and now is the cauliflower. Right? This is the main ingredient. So I'm going to move this stove because we're not cooking anything for a few minutes. Stove goes to the back, and then here. So now we're going to talk a little bit about cauliflower. Cauliflower is a very cauliflower, cabbage, and so is tomatoes. And these vegetables, they need a lot of sun to grow, and which is available in abundance in and around Caribbean, in the Mediterranean. So this is one of the choicest vegetable that we picked to display. And also, as you buy the cauliflower, what we do is like we wash it, of course, and I've washed it and it's already become dry. And now we'll see how we can sustainably cut it, because most of the time a lot of it is discarded, which is still edible. So what we have to do, this bottom where you see, we refresh that cut, okay. Then we take this leaves off here.
So also Rahul is using a paring knife. He's not using like a big chef.
Very quickly.
When you use a small knife like that, you have so much more control.
Yeah. And the very small leaves, they all are edible. They're almost like a lettuce, okay? So now this is going to be composted. I put this away. Let's see how much we're taking from here. So now, as if we look like it is a tree from the top, that's how it looks like a tree. This is the main stem. And we start working from underneath. We start disconnecting the florets, okay? So we're going to go here. Here. I'm working my way through it. And I'm just disconnecting it. And now we see we want to cook it in a certain amount of time. So yes, these florets are great to cook. They could be roasted whole, but we have to be ready in time. So what we're going to do, we're going to keep the leaves aside. We're going to cook them together though. And of course, we're going to process that. But the main topic of sustainability here is taking a larger knife here and taking this stem. Now you see, this is mostly discarded, okay? But this is edible. It has got the same nutritional value as the rest of the cauliflower. So I just trim it like as if you are sharpening a pencil sides, you know, like a log. I'm making a log out of it. So all the chewy part of it is gone. I'm left with this. This is entirely edible. Entirely edible, okay? So this goes to my compost here. And this I'm going to split half and taste exactly same like cauliflower. You will see when the dish gets ready.
And just keep in mind that when we cut up this stalk and the florets as he's doing now, the smaller you cut everything, the quicker it cooks. So that's always a good tip if you only have a short amount of time to make dinner, or if like us, you're trying to make a meal within an hour, then we always cut things smaller.
Yes, and also cutting it smaller also exposes more of the surface area, which on the other side helps us to adhere more, attach more seasonings to it, okay? And also the caramelization, the natural caramelization is at a higher surface area, so that also helps. And that's where the roasted vegetable stand aside from just steamed or boiled vegetable, because in the steaming, the natural juices of the caramelize and does not get that caramelized taste or color. So this is a big part of it, okay? So we have everything edible here. And now we're going to toss this with salt and pepper. And as I said, it's a simple cooking, right? You can always modify this to the food of your liking, and this same recipe could be replicated in many different cuisines, okay? So you can change the burger to any other grain. You can change the lentil to some other kind of lentil or anything else. And basically the structure is good. Okay, so I'm going to put all this here. I have a little bit of my canola oil here. Just enough to coat it. And also we are using oil only for the reason of attaching such that the salt and pepper get stuck to it. And also when it goes in the oven, it caramelizes well. Okay.
So all we're putting on this is salt, pepper, and canola. That's all you need.
Yeah. And we toss it real well, okay? Such that the oil helps to stick the salt and pepper to it. And then I have my baking sheet. It's little. And this is going in the oven at 350. And we're going to give it 15 minutes, okay? So it's properly cooked, and let's see how it comes out, right?
So those of you that are cooking along with us, how are you doing so far? Thumbs up. Yeah, good. So we like to show, so in some of our different classes, sometimes we have like one pot meals, and sometimes we have something like this where there's multiple things going on, but that's because we want to show you how much you can actually accomplish in just an hour, or even less, because we have talking on the beginning and end of this class. So you're doing a lot in a relatively short time. And like Rahul said, these recipes can be modified however. So for example, the cauliflower, I love to add curry powder to that, or you can add, what is it called? Za'atar spice, or, you know, any kind of spices you like. It's super easy.
So I have pulled the lentils because like meanwhile I'm watching the lentil as well. And you see it's blooming. And although there is still a lot of juice, but do you see the color, how deep the color is right now? And as you have seen, we just added salt, pepper, and like just a quarter spoon of allspice and just a little bit of coriander in there. So that's where it is. It will continue cooking. We do not want to force cook it, as said.
And make sure that you have a lid on the lentils, because if you were to put them on simmer without a lid on them, then all the water ends up evaporating instead of soaking into the lentils, and then it ends up having to take longer to cook, and you need to add a bit more water to it. So by putting a lid on it, you're trapping the moisture inside.
Okay, so now, as we said, and we started with lentils working, burger working, cauliflower working. Now we have to make the chermoula. Okay, so chermoula is a kind of pesto without nuts, but however, we have twisted the recipe a little bit. We have added walnut because we are celebrating nuts and tree nuts as a superfood for this month in our cafes. So we say, why not feature it here as well? And walnut is also, of course, a part of the Mediterranean diet, a lot of it. So what we are doing is we are making, as we said, pesto. So basic pesto is like garlic, olive oil, basil, Parmesan cheese, and pine nuts. And they are all buzzed together, and that makes some salt and pepper. That makes our nice pesto. But same thing continues moving from place to place. Like in South America, they make a similar thing, and they call it chimichurri, which is very famous in the steakhouse and everywhere. So which is parsley and sometimes oregano in there, garlic, sometimes onion, and they all blended together. So these fresh herbs blended basically. So this is a very simple recipe. And what ingredients, what we are doing here is, let me put on my tray, is, oh, here we go. Sorry about that. So here we go. So this is our tray here. So you have garlic, we have parsley, we have cilantro, 3/4 of a cup. Then we have lemon juice that we will add later on. Then we have salt, pepper, walnuts, paprika, olive oil, and cumin. That's it. So it's a little complex recipe, but you can make this and store into your refrigerator for up to a month. It stays real good and it tastes amazing, and it gets better like as it ages. So how we're going to start is like, I'm going to show you on this, like as everybody knows, when we go to the herbs, we will cover that piece up when we are doing the tabbouleh. But here I want to show you like how I do the garlic. So we buy the whole garlic or peel garlic or however. So the easy way to chop your garlic is to press it and then leave it aside so it doesn't fly over your kitchen. Okay, and then you press it with your knife carefully, smash it like this, and we need 1 tablespoon worth of. So this should make, all of this should make it good. Okay, and press it again, and then we just, so now you see it is flat and it is not going to move anywhere. So we just gonna chop it up.
The more you can crush it with your knife, the easier it is for you to cut it.
Yeah, it's not flying all over or rolling or anything like this. And then for this particular application, we are using a food processor. But who doesn't have a food processor? They can still mix it, all the ingredients, by chopping it real well and mixing with the hand. It will also make a like a chermoula work fine. Chermoula, gremolata, pesto, chimichurri, they are pretty much very, very close to each other. Okay.
And also, if you don't have a food processor, so you can use, if you have a blender, That is possible, just some of the stuff will get a little bit trapped in the bottom. So you're gonna need to like use a rubber spatula to scrape it up a bit more. Or if you have a mortar and pestle, you can just kind of do it by hand. That's the old school way. Or just chop it all up as small as you can, because even this finished product, it is very like, it doesn't get super smooth. However,
It's chunky.
you can add more olive oil to it or any type of oil to it to smooth it out a bit more, but this is still going to be very thick.
Okay, so now here I'm adding the cilantro, which I just topped up with the garlic that we chopped. That goes in here.
So it's 3/4 of a cup of
Cup
cilantro.
of cilantro to 1 cup of parsley. Here. And we're going to do salt and pepper and salt.
And salt and pepper, it really is, you know, always to taste, but we do put amounts on the recipe in case you need a little bit of assistance with that. But paprika is a 1/2 teaspoon.
1/2 teaspoon, that's exactly it. And then cumin.
And that's also a 1/2 teaspoon.
Yep. And then we have our olive oil and lemon juice that we'll add as we start spinning it. And then our superfood, chopped walnuts. You may put walnuts or you may not put walnut. Original recipe doesn't take walnut, but we are adding to that. Okay. This optional thing. And again, remember, if anybody you're going to serve this is allergic to tree nuts, be careful with that. So here I have put it in my blender, as you can see. And once I'm done, so last item to go in here left is the olive oil and lemon juice.
So you put all of the solids in there basically, and the liquids are coming in afterward.
And then I'm going to put this in.
So there it goes. So we did the walnuts also because they are such an excellent source of unsaturated fats for American Heart Month. Why not? But so you can see in that food processor how much the color is changing. And now he's about to add the olive oil in there. So another good thing about food processors is that they have like actually blenders have this too sometimes. They'll have a hole in the top. So as your item is blending, then you add the liquid in slowly, and it helps it to become more homogeneous. And he's gonna cut that lemon open. And we have on the recipe here that you can use, you're going to be using juice from a whole lemon, but again, that's totally to taste, whatever you prefer. And it also depends on the yield of this recipe, if you're using the same amounts that we are. But in this chermoula, you have salty, you have savory, you have, you've got acidic from the lemon, you know, you've got pieces of the walnuts in there. There's also pieces of the herbs left over. So it's just a really, really interesting.
That's how it looks like. Okay.
Yeah.
Now let me disconnect this and
if you want it, like the way you can kind of tell, and Rahul will show you also how thick this still is. This is consistency that it's meant to be, but if you would like it to be thinner, like a pesto is, then you can add more oil to it. That's totally fine. But yeah, this is definitely a thick consistency. So you can see in our overhead camera how thick that is. So this can also be, to be honest, whenever Rahul and I test the recipes for this class, we have lots of leftovers and we take them home. And I've been spreading this chermoula on toast in the morning, and it's absolutely delicious. So you can put it on bread, you can dip things in it, or you can dollop it on top of your meal, which is what we're doing today.
So this is the consistency that we do, right?
Yeah, so it's pretty thick, but yeah, you can thin it out.
It's pretty tasty. It's pretty tasty. Like some events I made this for pre-pandemic, and they liked it so much that they wanted to have it the bread, butter, and chermoula on the side for the table, you know, like that. So people love it. It's a very tasty recipe, and you saw how fast and easy it is. Right?
So Rahul's about to get ready for to make the tabbouleh, but don't forget to check on your lentils and make sure those are looking good, and check on your bulgur wheat as well. You can stir up the sugar and do a little test and make sure it's seems like it's cooked enough. And if it does seem like it's cooked enough, which it should be at this point, you can remove the lid and allow it to cool off a bit.
Okay.
Oh, you have cauliflower too, don't forget.
Yeah, so cauliflower is in the oven, as we know, as Eliza reminded, walk you through all the ingredients, all the rest of the components of the dish. So now here we're going to finish the tabbouleh. So people are very familiar with tabbouleh and how it has to be made, but as I said, at least 40% of that, of the volume, has to be parsley in there. And then I'm going to bring my burgle wheat that has been covered. So I had covered it like this, and when I take it out, you see it is all bloomed, and it has just been sitting there, and it is all absorbed and soaked everything. So I'm going to just put it inside a bowl just to see.
And tabbouleh, so this is like, it's an interesting dish because so much of it, like Rahul said, parsley typically makes up at least 40% of the volume of this salad. So that's pretty cool because typically we see herbs as being used as just a garnish or just like a little bit on top or something like that. But this salad really, really highlights the herbs.
So here, as we see, one part of the tabbouleh, and it has got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parts of rest of the stuff. So that makes the real tabbouleh real good. Now, as we see, we saw herbs. So why not take a few minutes to talk about herb, because we'll be done very soon with the dishes and we'll be ready to plate. What we're going to do is I'm going to talk about like how you pick the herbs and any kind of herbs, how we would do it. So like herbs when we buy from the store. So like, I mean, of course, mint I used into the other this application here. Parsley we use extensively. We use this in the making the chermoula, that is the cilantro. And then this is your spring onions that we're going to use in this recipe. So the whole idea is like, if a couple of things that I want to say, the most delicate on this is, of course, we wash all of them because sometimes they have silica or sand on them. And of course, handled very often. So we have to wash them real good. And also helps to soak them a few minutes in very chilled water, then shake it off and let it dry, and then you process it. So for the mint, when we pick the mint, we have to pick the mint by pieces like this. All the stems could be utilized for something, but if they are not too flavorful, because the flavor is in the mint leaf. Now, with the mint leaf, if you try to bash it too much or try to fine chop it, the entire flavor is gone. It will just taste like spinach, nothing else. So in many of the recipes, it is recommended to tear it like this, because you have to think it like as a flavor pocket. You know, when you chew into it, it releases the flavor right then, and then that's what it is. That is the best part of it, like that you tear it apart like this, like this in your recipe, or you tear it like this and you just run the knife once on top of that. Okay, so this is the thing here, and then I'm going to do next is for cilantro. The stems are full of flavor. They should never be thrown away, and wherever and whenever possible, they need to be chopped and utilized into any of the garnishes or anything. And if you're cooking at home, if you just put an entire sprig like this on your dish, it's a big mileage, because the fresher the herb, the better it is. You do not have to molest it, chopping it and anything. So, and then once you bite into it, it gives you the flavor burst right there. And so on for scallions and for the parsley. So I'm going to leave this side and I'm going to start processing our. I'm going to check my lentils and my cauliflower, and I'll be back in a minute.
So we wanted to show you some of the herbs whole. There are so endless herbs and spices used all around the world. So these are just some examples of herbs that are used in Mediterranean cooking. And they can be, like Rahul said, oftentimes we will pull the leaves off of the stems of parsley or cilantro or something and discard the stems, but that doesn't have to be the case. Through these classes, we always try to find ways to be a bit more sustainable and ways that we can repurpose and reuse parts of the plant that are typically discarded. So especially with the Chermoula or something like that, that is just going to be all chopped up anyway. And also with this tabbouleh too. You can just chop up the stems with the parsley leaves. And you get you know, additional texture, additional flavor. We always want to have a wide variety of textures and flavors and colors and experiences with all of the meals that we make, because that always leads to a greater satisfaction, not just physical satisfaction by feeling full, but also mental satisfaction because you're having a more varied experience in eating this meal. So if you have not checked on your lentils and your cauliflower, go ahead and do that. The cauliflower should be, I mean, they both
Very close. It's like 3 minutes away.
Yeah.
Okay,
We're
so now
almost at the end of the class, so they should.
So now we're gonna mix the tabbouleh. Making the tabbouleh is so simple. We take this bowl right here. We start with our burgle. It's right here. Goes in. It's all dry. It's all the liquid got absorbed in there. And then we add tomatoes. Those are de-seeded and diced.
So that was your cooked bulgur and let's see,
Raw tomatoes.
tomatoes.
Raw tomatoes. Everything else is raw in there. Then after that we do the cucumbers, and then we have our parsley. You see the volume of parsley in there?
So it's 2 cups of chopped parsley.
2 cups of chopped parsley.
That's a lot of parsley, but it's
And then it takes
delicious.
Mint. See, tabbouleh is disappeared in there. No. Then we do our salt, pepper, and then do our salt. Okay. And we're gonna do some olive oil.
And you saw the way the tomatoes and the cucumber were diced. They were diced very small, which is what you want for something like this. That's such a chopped up salad. The smaller you dice the ingredients in a salad, the more, I used the word already, but homogenized, the more like consistent the salad is, where every bite gives you all of the ingredients in one bite. And also a small dice is just like satisfying and like looks pretty too. So that also is important. So we're adding some lemon juice. He's squeezing half of a lemon into there. So again, to review the ingredients that are in this bowl right now, it's all of the cooked bulgur wheat that we had, 2 cups chopped parsley, 2 tablespoons of mint, half a cup of tomatoes, half a cup of cucumber, 1/4 cup of green onion. We said a tablespoon of lemon juice, but really that's one of those things you can add as much as you like.
Yep.
A tablespoon of olive oil, which I think did I miss that or did we not add?
No,
that?
I did put olive oil.
You did, okay. And then salt and pepper to taste.
Right.
And you just mix it. Oh yeah, there we go. So, and then you just mix it all together and that's it. So you see how green this is. The parsley and the other herbs, the parsley, cilantro, and mint, and scallions, and cucumber. There's lots and lots of green things in here. They make up the majority of this salad. Yeah, looks awesome.
Okay, so now this item is ready. I'm going to put it aside and I'm going to look at what's our next item. So tabbouleh is ready. Now what we're using is pomegranate, and pomegranate, as we speak, and as I'm watching the rest of the stuff cooking by here, sorry.
He's checking on the other stuff. So
yeah,
everything should be finishing around this time now.
Yeah, we are very close to the closing, to the finish line. Okay, so now we have one ingredient that I need to process, and that is going to be our pomegranate. So pomegranate is because again pomegranate grows in very hot weather countries, and especially around Mediterranean, and also it is utilized in many preparations: chicken, fish, desserts, eaten as how it is, and also it is used to make vinegars and molasses and all the kind of thing, because this grows in a very dry land. So this tree can sustain without water for a long time. That's how the design is. That's how and it's a very ancient fruit. So it is also known as in like Greece and those part of the world, it is also believed to be a fruit of prosperity because it got so much seeds in it. So that's how it is believed, and which is actually is. So how you see this pomegranate, and here you will see the ridges on this. These ridges are the sections in there, And the sections, how they run is like, we're going to open it in such a way that we do not waste anything, because many people do it wrong. They cut it half with a knife, then bang with a spoon and all that. But we'll do it a small demo, see how it works. And by the time we are ready to plate, okay? So I'm going to just go with the tip of the knife, just the tip, okay? And I'm going to do a circle here.
And again, he's using a paring knife because you have more control with that kind of knife.
Yeah, okay. And then here I'm I'm going to pry it open. I'm prying it open from both sides, everywhere with my knife. Here, can you see? I have to go out at my oven. That's okay. See all the separations here. So we're going to run the knife right on one of these separations. Go all the way down.
It's a little bit hard to see, but with the pomegranate, if you imagine, you know, like oranges have segments, pomegranates also have segments. They're not as clear, not as like easy to notice, but you can see like the membrane in between the two sections of seeds. And that's what we want to do. But this trick, Rahul just showed me this a few weeks ago when we were practicing for this class. And it's so cool that you cut down the membrane of the segments and the seeds come out so much more easily.
So here, the goal is that we do not want to burst any of the seed. As you know, the pomegranate seeds, they have an outer layer which holds all the juice, and we don't want to lose any of that, right? So we just start now, we just start dismembering it section by section and just start pulling the seeds out. And as soon as a few more seeds, and we are ready to plate.
Of course, you can also buy pomegranate seeds already
out of
the skin. That's definitely a much easier way to do it, but it's cool to see, you know, it's just like amazing how things like this grow. And
yeah, this is, now we are almost ready.
All right, so he's going to get the cauliflower out of the oven and everything should be good at this point. And if it's not, no worries. We have different ovens than you do. So if your ovens haven't finished, or if your stovetop hasn't finished yet, that's okay. Yeah, with the lentils, you want to be sure that it looks like all the water has been absorbed, or most of it has at least. And you can do a taste test and you know, make sure you blow on it so you don't burn yourself, but do a taste test and make sure that the lentils are cooked enough. You don't want them to be like super mush, but you want them to be very easy to bite through.
Here we see our cauliflower. So you see the stems that we said, they are right here. They're properly cooked. Everything is nicely caramelized and ready to go. Now we
yeah,
start.
Looks great. So Rahul's going to grab a plate and start plating it all up.
This is our plate right here.
So with this dish, we have so many different food groups, so many different colors and textures, like we talked about, lots and lots of different kinds of plants, lots of different flavors. The pomegranate on top is such an interesting addition, in part, you know, partly because it just looks really pretty. It's a beautiful color on top, but it adds so much to the dish. It adds a sweetness that wasn't there before. It adds like a pop. Like
our lentils properly absorb everything. And one last quick step to that, of course, we don't want to stretch it any further, this class. Some lemon zest, because it gives us the very nice flavor without adding sourness and every bite. And this is a very good way to use the citrus skin of either, could be orange, could be grapefruit, could be lime, could be lemon, before you juice them. Okay, and then a quick spot of juice here, and we are ready to plate. Okay,
so he's doing just some lemon juice and lemon zest in the lentils and mixing that up.
That's it, and we are set. Now we're going to start plating. So the first component, lemon juice makes a big difference. It's so fragrant right now. So we're going to do a layer of like about 4 ounces or a cup. Then after I'm going to put it aside.
I also find that by adding lemon juice to something, if you're adding it to something that's like very filling and heavy, if you just put a little bit of lemon juice on it, it lightens the whole thing up. It just like makes it feel not as dense because it has that like light, aromatic, citrusy scent and flavor. So we've got on this plate, this is our, of course, portion it however you like, but we've got equal portions of tabbouleh and lentils right now. We're putting some cauliflower on top. And the cauliflower has some
So
nice
these stems that we salvaged, so that has to be celebrated here. There's enough of cauliflower on that dish. And then we start with our pomegranate seed. It's like jewels. So it's going to just sit on top here. First, I'm going to use them again. But here we go and dab it. I said dab it so it is not disappeared. There are like small kernels of Chermoula on top.
And yeah, if you made this, if you chose to make this thinner, then you can like drizzle it on top. But the nice thick Chermoula, you can just do like a few little piles of it.
Yeah, so it is like a nice contrast on the color too on this dish. And then we just finish it with a little bit of olive oil, and that's the end of it.
Yes, we always need olive oil on top. So we didn't use olive oil in the cooking. We always used canola because it's got a neutral flavor, like Rahul said, and also canola has a higher smoke point. So it's not going to be super smoky if you were to put it in your oven or on your stovetop. But olive oil is the one that's got like really great omega-3 content. So of course, all oils are unsaturated for the most part. So that's not really the concern, but olive oil is a great omega-3 source. So, and it has a really delicious flavor to add to your dish as well.
All right, so here our dish is ready. Dinner is served right here.
Beautiful. Look at the colors. How are you guys doing at home?
We are very excited to try these. It looks great. And thank you very much for the instructions. They are very precise and just what we needed to follow along.
Great. I'm glad. What step are you at now?
We can show you a bit.
You've got good.
We had trouble finding the wheat, but we put some rice in there.
That's great. Perfect. That looks awesome.
Very excited with it.
Yeah, this is like so filling and so flavorful. And with each individual, you know, we've got four different recipes here in one, basically. So you can put these with whatever other recipes you like. So yeah, lots of possibilities with the options here.
Yeah, we're super thankful because it's perfect for our sustainability, and we're also trying to get the vegetarian diet but don't know how to cook it, so this is perfect.
Great, I'm so glad. So for those of you that are new in this class, we record these classes because we post them on our YouTube channel afterward. And I will always send, after each class, I'll send you the YouTube link to this recording if you would like to watch it again or send it to anyone. And we have all of our recordings from past classes on our YouTube channel. So if you wanted to go through and look at any other sustainable recipes we've done or plant-based recipes we've done, they're always there available to you. So I know we've gone over, I don't want to keep people longer than they would like.
I just want to say that my daughter and I are doing this. It's fun, but I just got back from the grocery just before we started, so I couldn't do any prep work. We've been catching up the entire time. It's been hectic.
How's it going?
Our lentils are still a bit watery. So
Okay,
we're trying to boil it off.
Cook it off. You're just going to cook
Everything
it
else
off.
is good.
Would you wish I
Thank you.
a spoon?
that's great. I'm so glad you cooked along anyway. Thank
Okay.
Okay.
Want to eat?
Yeah.
All right, if anybody wants to email us a photo of your,
Oh, yeah. Tú tomaste foto. Okay.
finished product, we would love to see that.
We
You
will.
can get my email from the invite and the reminder email that was sent earlier today. But thank you all so much. We really appreciate you being here. We hope to see you again in future classes. And since you are here now, you will be on our email list for future classes too.
Thank you.
So
Thank you,
yeah.
Chef Rahul and Eliza.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Thank you guys so much.
Have a good night. Enjoy me.
Thank you.
You too.
Good night.
Cooking. Bye.